Hi. Welcome back. Welcome back. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Kabah Harrison. Welcome back to another episode of A Queen's Roundtable Show. This particular show is part of the Born to Lead docu-series. And I am super excited about this. I'm always excited about every guest that I bring on the show. But this particular docu-series, Born to Lead docu-series, actually stems from the Born to Lead Awakening the Leader Within book anthology that was actually we launched in September of 22. Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within, basically acknowledging the innate leadership abilities in women. So each guest that I'm bringing on for the docu-series is going to talk to you, or we're going to have an open conversation about leadership, about their business, how their business became to be, some of the different struggles that they may have had as a leader or stepping into their leadership role, or what they've learned. So basically, this is going to be packed with a lot of good tips and tools. So if you don't have a pad and a pen, I'll give you a moment. Go ahead and grab it. So let's go ahead and get started. So this particular guest today, Alyssa, I'm going to read her bio to you, and then I'm going to bring her into the studio, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Also, let me say this. If you have not done so already, make sure you subscribe to the Eight Queens Roundtable YouTube channel. That way, hey, you can stay up to date on everything that's going on, and you will know exactly when we are going live. All right, so Miss Alyssa Devine is the founder and managing attorney of Purple Fox Legal. Alyssa Devine has created a unique law firm focused on intellectual property law for creatives and entrepreneurs. Uniquely positioned to assist her clients, Alyssa is not only a lawyer, but has also earned an MBA from Indiana University. Her knowledge and passion for both business and IP law is the winning combination that helps create customized legal solutions to support her clients' business values. Alyssa has worked at both state and federal levels with numerous judges, providing her with a wider perspective of law and how it works. She has also gained valuable insight working at a renowned intellectual property management company that focuses on protecting deceased celebrities' brands. Recently, Alyssa J. Devine's alma mater, Indiana University, Robert H. McKinney School of Law, recently published an alumni spotlight recognizing her accomplishments. She was also recently interviewed on the Renaissance podcast, where she spoke about the importance of intellectual property for all business types. She is passionate about educating others about the law in hopes to inspire appreciation for the value and beauty of intellectual property for all business types. She is passionate about educating others about the law in hopes to inspire appreciation for the value and beauty of intellectual property while using legal principles to grow businesses. Alyssa also enjoys giving back through volunteering and was awarded the Norman Lefstein Award of Excellence for volunteering over 500 pro bono hours. In addition to quench her thirst for preserving intellectual property, she sets time aside to watch documentaries every month. So that is Miss Alyssa J. Devine. I'm going to bring her into the studio and we're going to meet her. Well, hello there, Miss Alyssa. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good. I'm actually making sure that my devices are off, everyone. All right. So welcome. It is a pleasure having you here today on the show. And I'm super excited. Go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of, I know I read your bio, but go ahead and just kind of fill in any gaps and just, give us a little synopsis of who you are and who you serve and basically how your actual practice came about.
Yeah, and thank you. First of all, thank you again for having me today. I'm happy to be here. It's always a pleasure to speak with and learn from women like yourself. And that's part of, I think, one of the benefits of my position, my job, is that I do get to talk to a lot of business owners and kind of understand how things work for them and what lessons they have learned. But essentially, Purple Fox was an accident, as many businesses are. But it kind of came about because of the pandemic. So there weren't, a lot of jobs, and there were even, a lot of very, very experienced attorneys with, 5, 10, or 10 years of experience being laid off at that time. There was not anything really available, and a lot of people, suffered the same sorts of effects. So, and I was very, very passionate about intellectual property and business. That's what I'd identified and kind of kept coming back to during law school. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to settle for a different type of position. I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to kind of go for it. It was a sink or swim moment for me for sure. But and I decided to start my own firm, and I was very adamant about not using my last name for a couple of different reasons. But one is that I really wanted a strong trademark. Well, an individual's name isn't a particularly strong trademark, but also that's what everybody else was doing in my field. I wanted to do something different. Um, and I also wanted the brand to represent, the values that I hold dear and the values that I wanted people to associate with my brand. So, kind of doing a lot of different research, and color psychology and things like that, I came up with Purple Fox Legal. So, purple represents wisdom and creativity. So very much, on brand for entrepreneurs for sure. And then Fox for cleverness and getting out of tricky situations, which often, as I'm sure you're aware, lawyers do sometimes for their clients if they're in a bind. But yeah, that's kind of how Purple Fox came to be. And it was very challenging at first, starting during the pandemic, but it's been a blessing in disguise.
Okay. And you started in what year?
Fall of 2021.
Fall of 2021. Okay.
Yes.
So, why intellectual property in particular? What interests you about that? And, to make you say that that's what I want to focus on.
So when I first entered into law school, I thought that I was going to be a criminal prosecutor. So changed a little bit, but during that experience, I had a lot of different opportunities to kind of explore different areas of law and go to lectures and things like that. So, and I kind of equate it to, maybe you go to a restaurant, right? You get the menu and you kind of pretend that you're really looking, through everything, but really you're going to get the same thing that you always get, right? You're going to keep coming back to that, right? So for me, that's kind of what happened. I tried kind of different areas, but I kept coming back to this intellectual property and trademarks, copyright law. Just very fascinated by it, and it's. I think other people are fascinated with it too if it's presented in the right way. There's a class just on Taylor Swift at some law school somewhere. So I mean, this is it's certainly something that touches people's everyday lives, whether they realize it or not. And I think it's important to recognize, especially as an entrepreneur, you want to develop your own brand, but also you don't want to infringe on other people's brand. You want to be known for you, not a copy of somebody else.
Yes. So I'm thinking in terms of intellectual property, like I know you have the law firm. I want to know, does it also include some sort of like education? Because I would think that you might get people kind of showing up in your DM, maybe wanting some education around trademarking, just things along those lines. Do you do any sort of, like, I don't know, educational piece, in terms of lecture series, or have you written a book, or something like particularly that people can kind of take and walk away with to help them?
Yeah, so I have a number of resources on my website. So there are, blog articles, of course, but there's also a set of ebooks that make available on my website, free to download. One of those is a quick guide to trademarks, which talks about all of those sorts of things that you're just asking about. And occasionally, yes, I do different either webinars or workshops, either in person or online. I actually just did one a week or two ago about the Corporate Transparency Act. If you're not familiar with that, a new law that became effective January 1st, that a lot of small business owners are, um, either vaguely aware of or not aware of at all, but want to be able to comply with that. So kind of just walking them through the process of how to comply with that and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So this is the Born to Lead docu-series. So of course we're centering this around leadership. So what are your initial, well, let me ask you this. What made you decide to participate or want to participate in this particular docu-series?
So I think that women are, as a whole, are kind of undervalued, unrecognized, and certainly underappreciated. And I think it's time to change that status quo. There are, I feel like I learned a lot from my mom in this particular circumstance. So she used to be an accountant, but she was in a very male dominated field. And she just was given she wasn't treated the same as her male colleagues. I'll put it that way. She was given more work, expected to do more work than her male counterparts. And that's the kind of thing I grew up seeing. Like, this is just what it means to be a woman. More burdens, more expectations, less thank yous. But I don't think that's right. I think a lot of people have an issue with that nowadays, and I don't think that that's how we, want to move our society forward. So it's things like this that are bringing awareness to that kind of issue and that stigma that we still kind of face sometimes, and it kind of tackling it head on.
Right. So, and I totally agree, and that's one of the reasons why this docu series is, and the book as well, is so important to me.
Hmm.
One, to acknowledge the innate leadership abilities in women, and two,
Hmm.
and more specifically talking about women and how they go about being leaders. Especially
Hmm.
in a lot of male dominated fields. You know,
Hmm.
and just some of the different things that they've experienced. Like, they may be an entrepreneur, at the present time, or they may be doing both. They may still be in corporate and have their own business, and to actually
Hmm.
share some of the different obstacles that they faced, and to talk about, not only share, but how they have managed to, you know, um, I guess, for lack of better words, overcome them, or not allow it to cause them to quit, or just to kind of cower and, just go into the corner and stay in their place, so to speak. That's why I
Hmm.
wanted to have these conversations around this in particular. So, being a lawyer, or and even in, let's just take it back to even in law school. Like, did you have any experiences, as a woman, that you felt that your male counterparts did not experience, or had a very different experience because you were a woman?
Yes, an unequivocal yes, for sure. Um, and well, the kind of most of the times that I'm kind of thinking about, at least right now, are happened at networking events.
Mhm.
I felt like there were times where I was kind of talked down to a lot.
Mm.
Um, and I from my discussions with, my peers kind of after the fact, that's kind of not what happened with them. So, I can sort of, at least from that data, assume that it wasn't age related, because that's kind of what I was thinking at first. But there are bad apples in every industry. That's without question. But to kind of talk down to and discourage people from doing what they want to do is not really the best way to go about things, and not a good way to maintain or improve your reputation. So I think things like that kind of just added up over time. The more and more it happened, not necessarily with the same person. It was different individuals, but I think that's a reflection of my industry in part, because it is so male dominated. Because, well, at least right now, it's about 50-50 in terms of male and female lawyers, right? But the partners and the owners and the major decision makers are very much male, like overwhelmingly so. So there's a little bit of a culture problem within the legal industry. And this also applies with like maternity leave and things like that. I hear horror stories on things like that, and it's like, oh well, you can't be a mother and be a lawyer at like a a big firm. Well, you can, but like the operations need to kind of change to reflect how modern society works, how a post-pandemic society works. And the legal industry has a really hard time with that even now.
Okay. So now, did you spend some time working at a law firm prior to starting your business?
So I worked at a couple of different law firms, and in-house counsel, and then with judges and at the state and federal level. So kind of, I really wanted to get a taste for kind of everything, and was just very very aggressive toward getting experience. Like, I wanted experience. I didn't want to sit in a classroom all day. There was so much a classroom could teach me, and I definitely maxed out of that after a certain point. But those experiences were largely positive. I will say, there were a couple of places I worked where they had, all male attorneys, and then like all female support staff, which wasn't really a good look from an outsider's perspective. But I mean, I felt like I was treated well, so I didn't have any complaints. But just kind of reflecting on that, I'm like, that really just wasn't a good look for them. But that's just kind of the way things were, at least at that firm.
So, and I'm kind of, I know I'm kind of ping ponging here, but I'm just kind of thinking as I go and as I think of different things. So the MBA, which came first, the law degree?
So I initially started law school, and then as I sort of kept pivoting back to intellectual property, I very quickly understood how important just kind of business principles were with intellectual property. Like, those two things needed to go together. You really needed the knowledge and skill set of both of those areas to be, effective, be really good, a really good, advisor. So, and I didn't have, much business knowledge or experience at that point. So I was like, I think I'm gonna go get my MBA. So it was me entering into a joint degree program voluntarily, and it was really challenging, very challenging. My time management was key. It was absolutely critical. And that first semester when I did both, I overworked myself. I did way too much. Learned to cut back a little bit, and just manage my time better. But it was very, very difficult to do both. And they were also very different environments, which is kind of interesting to me. Not exactly polar opposites, but just very different. So with the MBA program, it's just very collaborative, and a lot of team projects, and presentations and speaking and things like that. Whereas the law school is more reading, writing, and one exam would be your complete grade. not a bunch of little things like it would be in the MBA program. So it's a little different. But with the MBA program, I got to learn from a lot of people who were, who had, full-time jobs for, 5 or more years. So that was kind of the benefit of that program, at least for me. And we got to, kind of exchange perspectives on things.
Okay. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that. Because my background is in social work, so it was all
Hmm.
projects and papers.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of collaborative work. So I hadn't. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. Okay, so it was like that in the MBA program,
Hmm.
not so much in the in your law program in terms of like collaborative
Correct.
agreements and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic in a way because that is what you do once you get out into practice. But yeah, it was more focused on the theoretical things versus the practical things, and
Okay.
also focused a lot more toward litigation than transactional
Mm,
practice, which
okay.
is also something that I'm um, kind of puzzles me in a lot of ways. I think a good amount of both is probably benefits students the most.
Okay.
Because you can kind of learn from one or the other. Oh, well, this case, this is what happened. So when you write a contract, make sure have a clause that addresses that issue, or something like that.
Right.
Um,
Mm,
yeah.
okay. So you were in. So at one point they were both going on simultaneously, and you said you kind of burned yourself out, and then you realized that you had to do better as far as like time management. Okay.
Mhm.
And then okay. All right.
Yeah.
So your current firm
Mhm.
exists of like how do you have it set up? Like how many other attorneys do you have working with you, or are they, like I don't know, paralegals or how, and so I guess I want to know, how is your current company set up, and where do you see it going? Like let's just say maybe the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. What are you hoping to um what type of an impact are you hoping to have?
So yeah, right now it's mostly independent contractors that I've delegated work to. Um, Taking on an employee is a very it's a very big step, very um, scary step. And for me, I think, it's maybe even more so compared to other entrepreneurs because that's tied to my license. Whatever they do is tied to my license. And that's very risky. And I've been trained to be risk adverse, even though I'm an entrepreneur, which you're supposed to take risks. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy there. But I think, ultimately, 3, 5 years, I think I will be hiring more support staff, not necessarily paralegals, but, people to help with more administrative things, or to help with, kind of maybe the educational piece, because I would like to ramp that up a little bit. I think, um, a lot of people like the ebooks that I have, but I think they like videos a lot more. So kind of working on things like that. Um, that I can kind of at least delegate part of that to somebody else, and then work on be a lawyer, do the thing I really want to do too.
Absolutely. All right. Great. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to kind of pong back to the whole leadership piece. So leadership, when did you first start to consider yourself to be a leader? And when you think about a good leader, what does that mean to you? Or what does that look like?
So I think part of that is a mentorship piece. I think a good leader will be a mentor, at least to varying degrees, to whoever's they're working with.
Okay.
So, and I think for me, one of the first times I even kind of had that idea in my head, oh well, these people look up to me, kind of thing. Probably actually was also in law school when I helped lead a national moot court team. So, and I mean, these, my peers were just, one grade lower. So like they weren't, there wasn't a vast difference in age, but they were just, looking up to me and asking questions and like, okay, well, like, what do you think? Or, okay, well, how did this work? When you did it and things like that. So that was kind of the first time that kind of light bulb went off a little bit. And then, I think another piece of leadership is emotional intelligence. So, know who you're talking to. Be aware that they may not react or perceive things the same way as you would. That's something I think actually my MBA program helped me out with quite a bit. So um, we did a lot of self-assessments, and one of the things, at least for me, was body language and sort of facial expressions. Kind of had my thinking face on, but that was perceived as either ignoring somebody or me not being happy with what they were saying, but really it was just me thinking. So kind of just being aware of those things and kind of monitoring that for myself certainly helped. Just be able to present myself better, to be able to communicate with people better. So I think that's part of it too. Actually, that's probably one of the biggest parts, is that emotional intelligence piece. I mean, I think we've had some studies that kind of reflect that as well, but it's something that is still sort of new, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of discussion maybe within a lot of bigger organizations, at least not to my knowledge. There's the culture piece, but then there's the emotional intelligence, which is a little different. So,
Right. I know there's a lot going around now in terms of talking about emotional intelligence. So when you talked about, and this is something that, I definitely believe in, and it comes up in every conversation, that, when you talk about leadership, is self-assessment, right? And
mhm,
actually being aware of, just
mhm,
how you are perceived, because sometimes
yes,
you might think a certain thing, and
yes,
you're assuming that it's coming across like that, but it's not
right,
coming across like that. Or maybe it's coming
right,
across like that for certain people because,
mhm,
they may have a similar background, or they may think
right,
similar,
right,
whereas others, it's a totally different ball game. Like how you mentioned
mhm.
your thinking, your thinking face, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, that's it's got me. Well, yeah, it's got me in trouble a couple times. Just I'm like, oh no, no, no. Like I was literally just thinking. Like I'm just processing this. I
Right,
can't I can't give you an immediate reaction. I need to think about it.
right.
So you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, but actually just kind of, getting to know yourself, and that
Hmm.
that kind of goes into, leadership development, personal development, professional development, in terms of, we all have areas that we're strong in, and areas that we may need some improvement. And that's
Hmm.
it's the same thing. I mean, in terms of being an effective leader, you have to really understand yourself. And um the bottom line
Yeah.
is, we all have experiences. Like
Hmm.
I have experiences from my social work background. I mean, the actual, books and school. Then I have experiences that I'm bringing
Hmm.
from, um, you know, just family, life experience. And then there's
Hmm.
work experience, but all of that has the impact, or plays a role on on basically how I view the world, how I view
Hmm.
myself,
Right.
and basically how I move, how I interact with others,
Hmm.
and sometimes people don't even really have an understanding of themselves, and in order to be a
Right.
leader, you not only have to understand yourself, but you also have to be able to understand individuals, or have
Hmm.
that eagerness, right? To
Hmm.
even understand what makes that person tick. Like,
Yes.
let's say if someone comes to work for you, what's important to them. Because part of, and I think you mentioned it earlier, part of being a good leader is being a mentor. You know,
Hmm.
and in a lot of instances, like helping to motivate that individual, and in order to do
Mhm.
something like that, you have to understand what's important to them, what wakes
Mhm.
them up every
Correct.
morning,
Right.
you know, and
Or
it
how to like best, congratulate them or encourage them.
that's
Absolutely.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because what may work for one person may not work for the other, and
Yes.
it's almost like, and this is kind of going into something else, but what it makes me think of right now is like the love languages. I'm sorry, guys. My my throat gets so dry. Mm.
Mine does too. Yeah, I
Lord,
think, well, I was having a conversation with a friend one time, and yeah, we basically equated the love languages, but we're like, but that also works, in a workplace. And I'm like, yeah, you're
yeah.
right. Actually, it does.
Because what made me think of it is how you said how this person, how they kind of accept encouragement, or
Hmm. Yeah.
so like for example, everyone wants to feel appreciated. No one wants to
Hmm.
feel that they're
Hmm.
that they're not being recognized
Right.
for the job that they do, especially if someone really cares and they're trying to
Yeah.
do a good job. But the bottom line is everybody is different. Some
Hmm.
people, it's, just give them a bonus. Show me how
Right.
does show me the money.
Right.
You
Yep.
just give the bonus and they're good. Other
Mhm.
people, it might be, a luncheon. They might prefer a luncheon, or they may prefer, for someone
Mhm.
that can say, you know what, I really noticed that you've taken a lot of initiative, and good job, good job. It's because of
Mhm.
you we landed this particular account, or
Right. Yeah.
whatever. But everyone is different, but the thing
Mhm.
of it is, in
Yeah.
order, I think that's part of being a good leader, is again understanding the people that you're collaborating with. I don't want to just say the people that work for you, the people that you're collaborating with.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, there'll be outside stakeholders as well. I mean, even clients and customers,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't think I wasn't thinking of it of that just yet, but yeah, the customers as well. And as business owners, and this is another
Yeah.
subject, but as business owners, we have to, think about how do we show our appreciation to our customers. And I know
Mhm.
I think a lot of times, like I know I work in community mental health, and a lot of times, we're so concerned with um the consumers, you know their rights, and how they feel about the services that they're getting. Now, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
of course, that's why we're in business.
Mhm.
We're there to provide community mental health services, right? But
Mhm.
at the
Right.
same time, us as employees, we're also important too, because they
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to do what they do without us. So it's important for them to know why we're there. What
Mhm.
Even though we have high caseloads, or even though we have a bunch of paperwork, it's important to know, why do we continue to get up every morning and go into those
Mhm.
jobs?
And I
You know?
mean, for something like that, I mean, that's a very large burden to carry. I mean, just
Mhm,
from a mental and emotional standpoint too. And how do you help mitigate the negative adverse consequences of that? Well, that could be really challenging. Well, mental health in general is really challenging, but for a very high stress job like that, it's even more so. Hmm.
mhm. Yep. But actually knowing, because I know we kind of got, or at least I got off subject a little bit. We were initially talking about knowing yourself,
Right.
and knowing some of the different, how you come off, some of your strengths, your
Right.
weaknesses, and basically how you're perceived. And you have to continuously, or I would recommend continuously assessing yourself, because as we go, we grow, and
Hmm.
we change.
Hmm.
So we need to
Right.
do a constant reassessment of ourselves. And and so I think we both agree that that's a part of being a good leader.
Yeah, and I think also we're playing off each other here, but I think also, yeah, holding yourself accountable,
Mhm,
and maybe even having other people hold you accountable or help you hold yourself accountable.
mhm,
That's something I really struggle with for, the first, year or so of my business, and got, better at that with just, making sure I was surrounding myself with the right kind of people who would encourage me, and that, would, say what they, or I guess do what they said that they would do, right? And like, oh, Alyssa, you didn't do this. You said you do it by this day. Oh, okay. I really need to do that now. Those kind of things I think are really important too, so that you're always moving the needle forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll kind of turn it over to you for a moment. What would you like to share in particular that you think is important to know in reference to leadership? Just kind of thinking of an individual that might be watching this interview and they have their notepad out, they got their pen out, and they want to write down some practical tips and tools about, being a better leader. What would you share in particular?
Yeah, so I think that it might depend on, the person, but for me, part of my, self-assessment is the kind of struggle to build and maintain relationships. Not
Mm.
necessarily create relationships, but maintain them, and continue to improve upon them. So for me, one of I make a lot of different goals, and I, readjust them, quarterly and annually. But one of the things that I try to do every month is sort of have, um, like kind of five like touch points with people. So like create, five new relationships, or try to, reach out or do something with, five people that I do already know. And not necessarily, it doesn't have to be, a big event or anything like that. Just be like, oh, something very simple, even like, I saw this article. I thought you'd be interested in it. Like, here it is. Or going to get coffee, or sending them a note, like, just happy birthday, or congrats on your business's, fifth anniversary, or something like that. For me, that was something difficult at first. Part of it, I didn't recognize the importance of it. Um, but as I sort of, came to appreciate that, and also kind of surrounded myself with, a community of like-minded people, I understood how important that really is, and that I needed to kind of keep myself accountable, to kind of, keep in touch with people, but provide value to the relationship, so that it's not all give, or take. So I think that's also important as well.
Wow,
Yeah.
I like that. Provide value to the relationship. And you know what? It's like
Yeah.
hearing you talk about the five touch points. So you knew that that was an area that was important and that you needed to work on. So you kind of
Yes.
builded it into your structure, I guess, to
Yeah.
remember to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I tell people I live and die by my calendar, and I really do, because everything's in there, even stuff like that.
You know what? I need to do that because I do. I mean, I really like meeting people, meeting new people, talking,
Yeah.
engaging, but I do
It's
need
hard.
to work on the touch points.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up. It really is, but if you make a habit of it, it obviously gets easier.
Yeah, yeah. I really do need to get better with that. I guess I need to take the approach of like I do with everything else. When you want to
Mhm.
improve something, what do? You make it.
Mhm.
You first of all decide that it's important, and
Mhm.
you
Right.
make a decision
Yeah.
about how you're going to do it and what's the most feasible way. Like for
Mhm.
example, the way you may do it may not resonate with me. That may not
Right.
be part of my personality. So I have to
Right.
make sure
Yeah.
it's something that resonates with me and
That's
make a
like practical with your lifestyle too, of course. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Little note to self. I'm telling you, it's like talking with people. It really it gets me to think about myself.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
just different things that I can learn, different things that I can improve on. Which
Yeah.
I also think makes an individual a better leader too. Knowledge base, and especially like
Mhm.
in your area.
Yeah.
Well, in my area too, actually. But staying like abreast of some of the newer things that are
Yeah.
um, happening. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
like AI.
Yeah. Yep. That's a popular topic for my area. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
I bet it is a popular topic. Oh my God, yes. Okay. So let's see. So we talked a little bit about you, how you got started, and how you brought the two together, the importance of it. We talked a little bit about where you envision it, moving forward in the future. We've lined out a couple of tips in terms of what a good leader is. Now, oh, I know. So let's close in this area. Is there anything, or what are you working on in particular to improve your leadership skills? I know we kind of touched on the touch points, right? Those touch points and putting those in your, planning to do that. But what maybe if you could just give us one other, item, if you will, that you're working on
Mhm.
in terms of fine tuning your leadership skills.
So I think for me, at least right now, it's almost always related to relationships because I feel like for me that's the hardest thing. But right now I'm trying to and that's actually is kind of based off of these touch points, but I'm trying to kind of meet with people and brainstorm how I can collaborate with them on just kind of different things because I think sometimes it's really obvious and it makes sense, but other times it's not obvious, but it could be really good.
Mhm.
And like for example, somebody sent me a social media ad actually that had a law firm and DeWalt with like nails and screws and tools and stuff. But like they put those two things together. It was like nuts and bolts of contracts or something like that. But like a partnership like that, I mean, it was not obvious, but it made sense. It complemented each other and it worked. So like trying to kind of be a little bit more creative and come up with things like that is something that I've been trying to actively do. It's not exactly easy, and obviously requires the cooperation of other people too. But yeah, trying to use my creative brain for things like that. Right now, it's kind of on my priority list.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. And every time I meet someone and we sit and we talk, it's like my brain is automatically thinking up ways about how we
Yeah.
can, collaborate in the future. But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes some collaborations are kind of obvious and the others, aren't so much. You have to
Yeah.
really just kind of sit and think about it. But
Hmm. Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So.
right. Well, I mean, did you have anything else that you'd like to share in particular prior to us actually just kind of closing out?
Um, Actually, I think I'll add one more thing. So
Okay.
in the job that I was happiest at, one thing that we were, us employees were expected to do every month was basically present an idea to improve the business. And it didn't have to be something big necessarily, but it just had to, this was something that would be, taken to the CEO for consideration, not necessarily implemented, but
Hmm.
and it obviously was an obligation of some sort, but it just kind of made me feel like I was appreciated, I was valued, and kind of just more kind of had that more of a community aspect within the organization that had a really positive impact on me. So,
Hmm. I
speaking
like
about how to motivate people, um, that motivated me to come up
hmm,
with better ideas.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of the ideas were used that you guys would come up with?
Yeah, sometimes. So
Okay.
one thing that I came up with was to use a new program. So it was Amazon brand registry that was new at that time. So I introduced that and came up with the concept of basically using that to help reduce or combat
Mhm.
IP infringement. So that was something that definitely helped the business. Made that way we didn't have to individually go after each thing. It was kind of like a more all encompassing thing that Amazon did for us, right? So just things like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, this concludes. Lastly, we just, the purpose of this Born to Lead docuseries, again, is to help women in business be able to fine tune their leadership skills. I know a lot of you out there are awesome, at what you do. This is to provide additional tips and tools to, like I said, to increase your leadership skills. And then for some individuals, still don't want to acknowledge their leadership abilities. So for you, what I have to say is stop it and just go ahead and just acknowledge it, wear that leadership hat, and, grow your skills, because we first initially have to lead ourselves, right? Before we can even efficiently or effectively lead anyone else. So it all starts here with us and our mindset and understanding that we want to all be a better version of ourselves, right? We're all working to be a better version of ourselves. And leadership development is part of it. And I know a lot of times we don't necessarily think of it, but it's a part of it. Leading ourselves, how we show up in our business, and especially as we begin to create a team, leading our team to be, to be effective, right? To achieve whatever goals that we have, that we, set forth for our business. We have to, it starts with us. It starts with us, and then it trickles down. So thank you for participating and joining us for the Born to Lead docuseries. So, but I don't want to forget though, Alyssa, give us your website, and again, just kind of briefly share what types of ebooks you have, or information that or different informational tools that they can get on your website.
Yeah, so the website is purplefoxlegal.com. And if you go to our resources page, you'll find a number of different ebooks. So one is a quick guide to trademarks. Another, I think a lot of businesses will find helpful, is our ebook called The Legal Risk of Social Media. That's been a really popular one as well. So, think before you post. So, and thank you again, Dr. Kappa Harrison, for having me. I've on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, think before you post.
Yeah, think before you post.
Okay. Oh, that has
Yeah.
me thinking. Now I'm a little curious, like, well, what's that about? Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, meeting you. And again, we talked about collaborating. So I'm really gonna utilize that, thinking about my touch points and actually putting it into my schedule to make sure that I continue to nurture those relationships. And that's really what it's
Yeah.
all about. So thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has learned a lot from you. And if I'm sure that they'll visit your website at some point, and hopefully make it a new client or some additional collaborations. And again,
Yeah.
ladies, if any of you are interested in being a guest, either on the show to spotlight your brand, and or you want to be a part of the docuseries, then definitely let me know. Reach out to me on either Instagram. Well, not necessarily Instagram. I'm on Instagram, but I'm not too active on Instagram. So I would say more so either LinkedIn under my name, Dr. Jacqueline Kabah Harrison, or either on Facebook under my name or Realizing Your Potential. And then my website is Realizing Your Potential. The number is 123.com. So thank you, everyone, and stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the A Queens Roundtable channel, YouTube channel, if you have not done so already. But we will see you next Sunday. I'll have a different guest, or I'll have some good information for you next week. All right. So stay tuned. And thanks again, Alyssa. And I'm sure we'll be touching base again soon.
Thank you again.
All right. Take care, everyone.